What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Estate Uncensored. We have a wonderful guest here today. We're talking about prison time. Sadly, not Greg's, because I don't think he would last for long. But we're talking. Our special guest has a little bit of experience with that. He has an amazing background story that he's going to share with us today. We're also going to talk about his experience coaching investors, accountability, goal setting, building an exit plan in your business. He's got a book out. He's been coaching people for 30 years in the real estate space. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff to dive into. It's going to be a really good show. So stick around. We are live, obviously, on Facebook right now. We've got the Evil Bald Ninjas back with us again. All is right with the world. So we're going to have a good time today. So first of all, my partner in crime, my compatriot, the esteemed Greg Matano, the junior grandmaster himself in the co-pilot seat. Where you belong. What's up today?
What's up, guys? I'm super excited. We were joking off air that a couple of months ago, I was going through a air quotes issue in personal life, and Mike, Gene, and Matt are both laughing, but I blew Mike off for his podcast, and I feel tremendously horrible about that. So we're not going to do that again. We already have it rebooked, but today we're going to be talking about some crazy stuff, and I cannot wait to hear what Mike has to say about it. But first, before we get to Mike, because he's going to be our guest of the show, we have the Evil Bald Ninja who's making duck faces. I don't know why he's doing that, but he is here. Gene, how are you, homeboy?
Gregors, I'm doing great. I'd like to say this to Matt. Matt's right. It's not Greg's prison stint. And I would say, Greg, let me go to Matt. I would say, Matt, that much like I make him my bitch on this show, it wouldn't be long before he was somebody's bitch in the clink. So, yeah, I'd rather have him here, if I'm being honest.
Oh man. Well, Mike, so much for you using this for publicity purposes. We've managed to ruin that in the first 30 seconds of the show. So let's pretend we started over again, and maybe we can get something salvageable you can use for press.
Do not edit it.
This is our hard stop. Edit back. Okay, and begin.
All right, there we go. All right, so Mike, officially welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me here. And I'll tell you what, if the rest of the show is anything like the first 15 minutes here, we're going to have fun.
We are going to have fun.
And Greg, just remember, when you do go to prison, there's a couple words you don't want to say. Bitch is one of them.
Oh. So, Matt, you're out. You can't, no.
Okay.
Not going to work for you.
Okay. So, oh my gosh. Okay. So let's talk about we're gonna dive into Mike's background, which is insane, like an absolutely crazy background story. But before we get into like the big sweeping arch of Mike's life, the lessons that he learned, and the things that we can draw from it, Mike has been coaching and coaches investors. So we want to talk a little bit about just what's going on right now in real estate, maybe some things that are going on that he's seeing in his coaching practice. So, Mike, you were telling us a little bit before we jumped on and went live, just about the experiences that you have with coaching people and then getting them to set goals and holding them accountable. So let's talk a little bit about that and just what do you see right now with your coaching clients, and what can we do better when we set our goals and kind of submit ourselves to someone like a coach to hold us accountable.
Yeah. So goals are a funny thing, right? I think that we can tend to set goals and not hit them. And because we don't hit them, then we feel defeated, right? So a lot of times I think it means that we might have set those goals a little bit too high. And if you back off on them and set something that's a little bit more realistic, it helps you build your self-confidence, because self-confidence comes from the achievement, right?
Yep.
So one of the things I've learned over the years, I've been in coaching, personally coached for 20, 25 years. And the thing that's always helped me is my coaches will always say to me, hey, what are we going to accomplish this week? So let's set some action items, some things that you have to do during the week, so that when you check back in with me next week, we see how you move the ball forward. And just that alone, I believe, has helped me to grow my business year after year by 20% a year. When I was selling real estate, if it wasn't for me continuing to push how many contacts I was going to make, how many appointments I was going to set, how many appointments I was going to go on, I wouldn't have made those accomplishments. So, my coach pushed me. And I think that everybody's different. I get that. I have a couple coaching clients right now that I'm working with. One that he welcomes the ability to hit those goals and show up every week and say, man, I did it. And plus I made one more call. And then, I have another coaching client that every week he shows up and he fell short by 25 or 30%. And, a million excuses why. And I think if we make excuses, we don't move that ball forward. So,
yeah, love it. Yeah, there's a holy cow. We could do an entire episode on that, but we've got a couple of comments from people that I'll read out because I think they're good. So Brian Offener says people underestimate the amount of activity required to reach a goal. So don't move the goal, increase activity, which it depends on the circumstances, but I can get on board with that. And then May Wendell says, how do you know how realistic your goal should be if you don't know what it takes to get there? And that really is most of the time the key issue. Because Mike, you talked about it's one thing if you're in, like, let's say residential real estate sales, where a lot of the fundamentals of the business have been figured out. And exactly, in general, how many contacts you need to make, how many people needs to be in your database, how many calls you need to make in order to get a certain number of deals and stuff like that. But if you step anything outside of that, like if you get into the investing space, the entrepreneurial space, if you're building a company, you're kind of stepping into the unknown. And you don't know, honestly, if your goals are realistic until you set a goal and then you go see, well, does my activity level get me there? And maybe it doesn't. And I think that's where people struggle, is they struggle with stepping into the unknown where they don't know how realistic their goals are. So how do you know, once you've set that goal and you've tried to hit it and you haven't hit it, how do you know if it was a realistic goal or not?
Well, back into it, Matt, if you're going to go lose 20 pounds if you want to lose 10 pounds and you want to lose that in 30 days, you're probably not going to hit that goal. But if you want to lose it over 6 months and you're going to lose 2 pounds a month and you set some, realistic goals to lose a quarter pound or half a pound a week, you're going to hit it with no problem. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing when you're picking up the phone to prospect, to call sellers to sell their house as a listing agent, or to find buyers as a buyer side agent, or to find deals to purchase as a real estate investor. I want to do X amount of deals. And here, I'll tell this story real quick, right? I knew when I sold real estate that if for me to sell 125 listings a year, I needed to make 20,000 dials a year. Now, that's a big number, but I knew every time I picked up the phone, I made $8. So I picked the telephone up, I made $8. So if I went to work and all I did was dial the phone and I didn't make any appointments, I still made, $5,000-$6,000 that day, depending on how many calls I made, right?
Yep.
So because I knew 20,000 dials would get me 364 listing appointments, and I would take 260 of those, and I'd sell 125. It was basic math. Now, it took me a couple years to come up with those metrics, to figure that out. But, here again, my coach helped me put that plan together, and I showed up every day and did what I needed to do. So
love it. Sound familiar, Greg?
I'm running the numbers right now. Yeah, on my.
Yes, I know. I figured you were. Yeah, I figured you comparing it internally to your own spreadsheet.
Oh my gosh, dang it! His numbers are great.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about that. I'm like, I wonder what Greg is going to say, other than, I can knock out $20,000 by lunchtime. Come on now, that's.
But you're doing 20,000 a year.
20,000 a year.
I mean, that breaks down to, so.
And we're talking, Mike, is this hand dial days? These are the days before triple line dialers, right?
1,066.66666.7 per month.
It's about 55 dials a day, every day, 365 days a year. Yeah.
So here's how my office was set up, right? This is old. This was before predictive dialing. This was before computer dialing. This was before email, right? So I'm going to date myself a few times.
Sure.
But I built a stand-up desk in my office. I had 2 telephones on it. I would wear 2 headsets, and I would dial a number while the phone's ringing. I'm dialing the other number.
Yep.
Here's what I liked best: when 2 people answered the phone at the same time. That was 2 contacts, and I could ask the question. Whoever gave me the right answer, I'd hang up on the other one.
Oh my gosh.
With the other one.
That is a baller move. That is hilarious. Oh my gosh.
For real. So,
all right. I've literally, Mike, I've never heard anybody say that before. I've heard of some people. I know a lot of guys that have done the Mike Ferry 2 dials and the 2 headsets thing. I haven't heard anybody say that before. Whoever gave me the right answer, I stayed on the
followed
line.
Mike Ferry for years. Tom Ferry, I coached for Tom for years, and so.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's hilarious. All right, we've got a lot of stuff to get into. We've got some other comments on the goal setting stuff. Brian Offner says Gene can lose 10 pounds in a week, which he's absolutely right. He just has to shave down that beard of his. But let's let's get into Mike's background story. So you gave us a sneak peek. You've done everything in real estate. Obviously, you've done the Mike Ferry prospecting stuff. You worked with buyers. At some point, you transitioned into to investing. So why don't we go back into that story first and just give us the sweep of how long was your like residential agent career, and then when did you get into investing and why?
Yeah, sure. So, I always tell people, I say, look, I never came from a family that was entrepreneurial or that had a real estate background. So I don't really know how I ever got to this point. Right. I remember I was, I woke up one morning, I had a general contracting business and I was married at the time. And I looked at my wife, I said, man, I can't do this anymore. I'm burnt out. Mm-hmm. So we sold the company. And I was, I had a pretty successful company. I had 20 some guys working for me and trucks on the street. And it was nuts. We were doing kitchen and bath remodeling and room additions and millions of dollars a year. But I was still in the field. And I didn't understand that difference between working in your business and working on your business. There's that big difference there. And I didn't get it. I was still young. So I wake up, sell my business. And I've always been of the philosophy, I heard Brian Tracy say years ago that success leaves clues. Mm-hmm. And I knew that if I found somebody successful and did what they did, modeled them, that I could really shorten the learning curve and be successful myself. So I wake up, I'm burnt out, can't do, I want to get out of the construction business. I sell the company and take a year off. And during that year, my wife and I did a couple of house hacks. And you know what, guys, we did that long before it was sexy, before it was a thing to do. Now today people do it. It's kind of a way of life. And back then it was not. And I remember her screaming at me, pick these nails up off the floor, damn it. And, met a real estate agent along the way who was really successful at the time. And this is 30 years ago. So, for somebody to be selling 100 houses 30 years ago, that was pretty much unheard of. Yeah. And so I went to him and I said, hey, Todd, I'm thinking of going in the real estate business. And he said, man, I think you'd be great at it. And I said, well, can I come and shadow you and follow your team around and learn what you do? He said, no. I was like, well, thanks, appreciate that. He said, I'm going to do better. And now here I'll date myself again. He says, I'm going to do better. I'll make you a cassette tape. And he made me this cassette tape. And I listened to that thing over and over and over again. Wow. And, the fundamentals on there were just incredible. And I took what he taught and I applied it in my business. My first 9 months in the business, I sold 78 single family houses, didn't know a soul.
Oh my God.
All in the for sale by owner market.
Wow.
I remember about 6 months in, my wife said, are you ever coming home for dinner? I said, yeah, as soon as we get through this year. So,
yeah, right. Okay.
So I went on from there. I built a team selling 125 houses, all listings. And I only count listings. I gave buyer activity away. It was just additional revenue as far as I was concerned. But, here's the thing Mike Ferry taught back then, right? He taught burn and churn. So I'd never built a database. I didn't know anybody. So I really didn't have any of that repeat referral business because it was just all churn and burn, right? Yeah. So 2005, I saw the market starting to shift, and I had a team built, and I was like, man, I'm going to have to, let people go. I don't know what's going to happen, but it seems like this market's going to shift. Here again, success always leaves clues. When I was in the construction business, I did a lot of work for 2 major syndicators in Chicago. And I understood the private equity model. So here's what I knew, that if you raised private equity from people you knew, you married it with a great real estate deal, you stayed in the middle, and everything went well. Everybody made money. And, at the end of the year, you could all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Well, that only works for a short period of time. The market shifted. But here's what happened. So I put a small ad in the paper in 2005, and $45 I paid for an ad to run 5 days. It said, real estate investors wanted. My phone rang off the hook. I wound up raising $500,000 from that ad. Syndicated my first deal, was a small 11-unit deal in Chicago. And I said, man, this is going to be great. Over the next 30 months, I went out and I raised $18 million, bought $60 million worth of real estate. It was about 4,000 apartments in 5 different states. Built a property management company managing 7,500 units. Pretty much knocked the thing out of the park, except for the fact that we grew way too fast. I was very unstable. 2007, I closed 17 deals for 2,700 units. I barely had time to breathe. And I always look at it like this. I was sitting on a kitchen stool on 2 legs, lifting my feet off the floor, trying to stay balanced. And it just was very unstable. So I made 5 mistakes. The instability by growing too fast and not taking care of things along the way. Undercapitalized, didn't raise enough money, and over leveraged. I was 85% loan to value on $60 million worth of real estate. I don't know who was more at fault, me for taking the money or the banks for giving it to me.
Yeah.
And then I didn't pay attention to the details, to the red flags along the way, and I didn't listen to people around me. Those 5 things caused my business to come off the rails. 2008 was like we hit a wall in a freight train at 200 miles an hour, and we totally started to turn upside down. So, I had 4 or 5 deals that were in really bad, that should have just went to foreclosure and let a few investors get hurt. But I was always the kind of guy that I didn't want that to happen. And I wanted to save everybody. And, then I want to be the guy that turns around and said, hey, I'm the hero, right? When in essence, I should have just let those deals go to foreclosure. But I thought, well, I've seen recessions in the past, right? Recession will last 17, 18 months. There's a 10 or 12% correction in the market. Well, this thing lasted 7 or 8 years, damn it. And, the correction was 40%. My NOI dropped because my occupancy dropped. I couldn't pay my bills. I couldn't pay my investors. So I said, well, I'll start moving money back and forth between companies. So I started taking money from my profitable companies, and I had 38 companies, and we would move it over to the non-profitable companies, trying to shore everything up. And here's what I always tell people. You know what? I never flew private. I didn't buy a boat. I didn't have a big house. I tried to save my business. And so moving money back and forth, my attorney, my accountant both said it's okay to do that. And it was, as long as you leave a paper trail. But I didn't disclose it to my investors. So what happened was, because of non-disclosure, I wound up being charged on wire fraud and mail fraud charges and sentenced to 10 years in federal prison.
Oh, gosh. Holy cow. Okay. So, all right, there's holy cow, there's so much. Okay, let me go back to the five things.
I think Gene's just afraid of the whole thing happening to him right now. That's why he's staying silent. He's like making a hole in water. He's like, not saying shit.
No, dude, I worry about that stuff all the time. When you get into big numbers, it's that, like I said this on a podcast the other day. The higher a monkey climbs up a tree, the more his ass is exposed. Like, you're dealing with 285 million. You got a lot of people looking at you, man. All it takes is one judge or there's shit. That's rough.
Yeah. So, listen, it wasn't all bad, right? Hey, I went to prison and thinking that my life was over. I thought, man, here I go from being, the neighborhood baseball coach and soccer coach, being home most nights for dinner, living a pretty modest middle-class lifestyle, got a great marriage, to all of a sudden living in a 12 by 12 room with 3 men I don't know or like, and having 3 green outfits and 5 pairs of underpants, wondering what the hell happened to my life.
Matt, that sounds familiar for you.
Well, I was gonna say that's
5 pairs of underpants. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am ruthlessly simple in my wardrobe, while still looking dapper, of course, which I'm guessing is not really an option in prison. So I would that is not an environment that I would thrive in. So first of all, like how much of the sentence did you serve?
Yep, that was my question.
Yeah, like so how long were you in total?
Okay, so I was gone for 7.5 years. I came home the week they closed the world down for the pandemic.
Oh my gosh!
So I served another 10 months on home confinement. It's a whole deal. But let me just talk about this real quick. So I go to prison. I think my life is over, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm there about 17 days. My wife decides to divorce me.
What?
And now I'm ruined. I mean, just it wrecked me. And I was like, God, how am I going to get through today, much less 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. So prison's a funny place. As dark as it is, as shitty as it is, people gather around you and they lift you up. And, I mean, the big joke was, hey, we better take his shoelaces, right? Because that's where people thought I was at. Mm. And I walk in the gym. I'm probably in prison about 6.
When people say something about shoelaces, explain that to somebody who doesn't understand what that means.
Yeah. Well, they thought I would hang myself, right?
Gotcha.
They thought I was going to kill myself, and they wanted to make sure I was safe and take anything that I could hang myself from a lead pipe with. So
you had guardian angels around you that were helping you, supporting you, and lifting you up and getting you out of your dark spot, right?
Yeah. So I'm in prison about 6 weeks. And remember, I went from running marathons and working out to being 35 pounds overweight. I hated myself. And I walk in the gym one day, and this guy walks up to me and he goes, hey, don't let these fucking people beat you. He says, all I want to do is take everything from you. They can take your cars. They can take your real estate. They can destroy your business. They can destroy your family, but they can't take what you're made of. They can't take who you are. They can't take what caused you to build those successful businesses. You get all that shit back. He goes, come in this gym every day, start working out, and you'll start to feel better about yourself. Lose some weight, feel better, re-engineer your life. This guy, the best advice he ever gave me. Matter of fact, I reached out to him a couple of weeks ago on Facebook, and I told him, and he said, man, I needed to hear that today so bad. So, we always touch people's lives right where they need to be touched from time to time, Yeah. So I start going to the gym, I start working out, I'm losing weight, and then I decided to go to college. I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in theology. I wrote 2 books while I was gone. I wrote a book called Exit Plan, Your Complete Guide to Multifamily Investing and Why You Need an Exit Plan Before You Buy. I wrote a ethics course. I taught real estate investing and property management and ethics in prison for 5 years. How ironic, right? Federal inmate teaching ethics. I was at an outreach program. I went into the community because I was a model prisoner. I went into the community. I told my story 40 times to small business owners and local area companies. And I met a professor from the University of Minnesota, and we did a joint venture. We co-authored a paper, an ethics paper together, which we had published this year in the Business Journal of Ethics. And it gets taught at the collegiate level for forensic accounting classes and sales and marketing classes. So I really re-engineered myself, so that, now today I'm home, I'm in the coaching and training space. And my goal is to give back. I think that there's men and women out there. There's, team managers, people who run companies, and C-suite people that, are faced with stress and challenges every day. And how do we make the right choice and the right decision? And, my goal is for somebody to just make a small impact in somebody's life to know that first you're not alone, and that there's people who care.
Yeah. Let's talk about the word you just said, the phrase you just said, small impact. I think a lot of people don't even really understand what that means. I mean, and I will cry when I say this story, so all you motherfuckers can just fuck off. But I mean, I have Matt.
I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it.
Was that good enough?
Did we get shit, yeah, we got it.
Yeah,
no pitch. No.
Oh shit. I had a friend of mine. She was on a trolley here in San Francisco, and she sat next to a lady. I've told the story many times. And when it comes back to Michael, you're talking about small actions. She didn't know the lady, but she started, having a conversation with her. And she was going to go have lunch with a friend of hers, and she decided to blow off the lunch with a friend to go have lunch with this gal. And this gal later told her that, you know what, the day that I was on the trolley with you, I was going to go kill myself. And your lunch invite saved my life.
Yeah.
And so that's a see, gets me every fucking time, man.
I thought he was talking to the dog.
I thought he was. I don't know what was going on there.
No, that's just me howling because I tear up every time when I hear this, because I mean, we have so much power, like Mike said. Small actions make massive impacts. Yeah. And once we understand that, I mean, if Matt would at least respond to my phone calls, I mean, my heart would be full, but he doesn't.
We have a scheduled phone call after this episode. We're literally talking after this episode. We have to schedule our times to talk.
I'm sorry. I don't see that on my calendar. I don't see it.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's interesting, Mike, you mentioned like people actually rally around you in prison, which is like I was reading Man's Search for Meaning, the Viktor Frankl book. He mentions that about people in concentration camps, but that makes more sense, right? Because you're just like, everybody feels innocent, like you feel falsely imprisoned and all that stuff. But yeah, I think it would surprise people to know that kind of dynamic, that support happens in prison, and like under other circumstances. And I think it would also surprise people to learn that you can teach real estate investing and ethics and things like that in prison. But we've interviewed one of our past guests, Andrew Ray, essentially learned his investing and entrepreneurial strategies from other white collar folks that were in prison with him. He had a similar situation, and he actually came out the better for it, and now teaches people what he learned and what he applied from the things that he learned just from taking classes and spending time with people that he met on the inside. So, yeah, it is interesting. It's such a good example of taking something that could break you and turning it into something that makes the next phase of who you are. And that's got to be the hardest thing for any human being to do.
Well,
funny, Matt.
Sorry, Mike, I apologize.
Oh, no,
I have a question for you, but I want you to respond.
Yeah, just real quick. So I taught those classes in prison. Well, there's a guy, he came home about 3 years before I did. And he's doing real estate. I mean, he's buying 2 and 3 flat buildings, and he's deconverting them, making them single families. And he's done about 15 of them since he's been home, so he's taking, some of the guys that have taken some of that stuff that they learn in prison and go home and implement it, they change their lives. We had one guy, he was a pretty high-ranking gang member in a gang in St. Louis, and he said, if I'd have known I could have made this kind of money selling real estate, I'd have never sold drugs. So this goes back to making small impacts in people's lives.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question, Mike, on this one. And when it comes down to this, there's multiple facets. So when it comes to prison, is there prison of the physical body, right? And then there's also prison of the mind. Yeah. And there's two totally different opportunities there. And then once you understand where you're standing, so are you physically standing like you did in a prison cell, right? And then you stepped out of that, and now you're free of your mindset. Then your life steps in. Where do your goals and where do your objectives move from that point? Because in my opinion, and I've never been in prison, so correct me if I'm wrong, being in prison, which is somewhere I never want to go. I'm petrified of that. I'll be very open about that. But yet prison of your mind, that is somewhere 95 to 99% of people stand on a daily basis. How do you break free of those, and how do you step into where you are right now?
Trying to make me cry?
Well, I cried earlier, motherfucker. So yeah,
It's only fair, I guess. It's only fair.
Is that a spot on Gringo or
actually,
It might be.
I'm taking my own notes right now, as I always do, to piss Gene off.
So listen, I think almost everybody walks around in some type of prison. I think that everybody has something in their life that is just holding them, right, and keeping them from moving forward. Listen, I think in real estate we call it call reluctance, right? You're afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody. You'd rather send an email or a text or do a social media post than pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Greg, are you thinking about selling your house?" We hold ourselves in these prisons. I think people are in relationships with people that are detrimental to them. Think about the mom who is stuck in an physically abusive relationship she can't leave, right? I mean, that's bad. That's one of the worst prisons you probably could be in. The physical prison, but it's a mental prison that people put themselves in. So I say this because there is nothing in my life today that I'm afraid of because of what I went through. I don't think you have to go to prison in order to overcome that. I think it's a decision. We're faced with choices every day in our life. And I think if you make a choice to move forward, to grow, to do something different. Here, I was in prison. I said, man, I'll never take another risk again in my life. I said, there's no way. I'll never do this shit again. I said, why would I want to put myself out there? Well, you know what? I got approval from the SEC to go back. I can be a sponsor of deals. I can raise money. SEC says it's okay. The real estate commission said I could get my real estate license back if I wanted. I don't need it for what I do. But you know what? I'm out on a limb. Man, I'm doing a live event here in Schaumburg in September. I went out on a limb financially to put this thing together. I'm doing we just got awarded a deal down in Tampa that we're putting together. We have to go raise money. I'm not going to sit back and stay stuck in a prison. So I say that because I think everybody has that choice in their life. We can stay in that place where we have call reluctance and don't want to call somebody, that we want to whine about our business and say that we can't move our business forward. We want to stay in a relationship that sucks and doesn't make sense, or we don't want to do the things to change the situation that we're in.
Mike, you're speaking truth to me on a different level. I have a relationship I'm in right now with two individuals, not in a threesome way, you weirdos. Matt, get your head out of the gutter, you sicko. God. Gene, would you please take him off the podcast? I can't deal with this bullshit. But what it really comes down to, what I've been writing down is this, is Mike, you went to prison physically, but every single person is in a independent mental prison on every level. So if you're too fat, too skinny, you drink too much, you smoke too much weed, you eat too much, it's whatever it's going to be for you, but you hold yourself back. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I've never done it before. Walk me through a process. It doesn't have to be detailed, just very, very, very basic. Walk me through something that would help someone that's listening to this right now, and they're going like, I'm having a hard time with my diabetes, with my bald head, with my fat, obese, insulin sucking, troll sucking, babies. How would someone work through that mindset?
So we all get something out of everything we do. So one of those people that you might be talking about, they get something out of feeling the way that they're feeling. They're getting some reward from it. And what you need to do is you need to figure out what that reward is and is it worth it? So, we put ourselves you can put yourself in this lose-lose situation where if you don't pick up the phone, and prospect, it's a lose-lose situation because you beat yourself up because you didn't do it, but you didn't do it. And so you don't get any results from it, but you feel safe because you didn't do it. It's a kind of a clusterfuck, right? So,
that really is.
Can I say that on your show?
I don't know what the fuck you're
Can't get worse than what
now.
Greg says.
Hey, I'm sorry. We're having Matt's connections are bad. He had to go. He'll come back. Oh wait, it's coming back. His stream's back. Okay, we're good.
Dude, we really went about 34 minutes I had no marks on my Gringo sheet. In the last minute and a half, I was able to 1, 2, 3, whack 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sounds
keep
about right.
going.
Yeah,
So keep
Greg,
going.
When Greg gets in rare form, it's
They fire him off quick.
No, the thing I really want to dive deep with Mike on is that how to get out of the prison of your mind. I mean, and that is something that we all are trapped in. I'm in mine on a daily basis, and I do things that keep me confined into certain, parameters. And I would love to understand a little bit more about how you've freed yourself of yours with this kind of conversation. I mean, people are going to be able to see the light and be able to walk free. All of a sudden, their chains are going to be lost from their ankles and from their arms, just by understanding they're being held back.
Okay, so hey, you got to make a decision, right? I don't like being this way anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. So what do I have to do to change it? And a lot of times, Greg, you might not be able to change it yourself. You might have to find a coach or a mentor or somebody that you can go to and say, hey, what do I need to do? Okay, so let's take some small baby steps, right? First of all, let's figure out what satisfaction you're getting out of doing what you're currently doing, and start to help you realize that it really isn't satisfaction.
Let's break down that comment about finding and having the satisfaction. What does that look like in your point of view?
Well, there's a safety in it, right? Okay. And I keep going back to prospecting because it's the easiest thing, right? You got a realtor who says, well, God, I need to sell these houses, but I'm afraid to call anybody, right? I got a phone call the other day from a realtor. She says, and I don't know, just out of clear blue nowhere. And I don't think I've ever been prospected ever in my life by anybody. This woman calls on the phone and she says, hey, we just listed a house in the area. Do you know anybody who's thinking about buying or sell, or do you know anybody who's thinking about buying a house? I said, no. She said, okay, goodbye. I thought, really? That was it? You had me on the phone, a live person. That was it. So, there's a safety in that, right? She could get off the phone. She could feel safe, and she didn't have to put herself out there and take a risk.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, one of the hardest things for me when I came home from prison was to be in a crowd. Okay. So
really,
why? Because I spent 7 years with 500 men, and you saw the same people a couple of times a day. So, Greg, if I'd see you in the morning, I'd say good morning, and then I didn't have to talk to you the rest of the day. So, it was just the kind of respect thing, right? I could pass you 5 or 6 more times throughout the day, and we never had to acknowledge each other as long as we acknowledged each other once a day.
Huh.
So it's kind of a weird, unspoken thing behind the wall, right?
Right.
So I come home from prison, and I remember a friend of mine taking me for a job interview, and we're driving down the expressway, and I said to him, man, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. And people told me when I went to prison, you would get institutionalized. I said, no way, that shit's never going to happen to me. And we do this outside of prison. We get institutionalized because we fall into these patterns and these traps, and we do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity, right? So, while I was gone, or when I came home and I had to, here's the best thing I could say. Christmas last year, I'm trying to buy a couple of Christmas cards, and I'm standing in Target, and the card rack is in a weird place. And the cards I'm looking at, people are walking in front of me and behind me, and it's crowded, and I feel claustrophobic, and I got this stupid mask on, and I'm like, I had to leave. And I couldn't go to a store and be in a store if I didn't know where something was and I could go grab it, right? Mm. How about this? I'd go to Walgreens, or I'd go to Walmart, and I'd stand there and I'd look at the shampoo, and there's 45 freaking choices of different shampoos. And I would grab what I would typically buy in prison, because in prison there were two choices, one for the curly hair people and one for everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so I would grab what I was used to, because it took too long to think about anything else, and I felt pressure and like people were watching me. So that was another prison I had to break through. So what did I do, right? I kept going to crowded places. I kept reaching out. I went to a networking event the other night, and I thought, God, I really want to leave. This sucks, man. Too many people. It's crowded. And I thought, no, you know what? Hey, sucker, stay here. Fight it out. Beat it out. And I did. And I met a few people and I left. So we have to fight through that shit. If you don't like where you're at, change it.
So what you're talking about really quickly, and I want to get Matt and Gene in on this. You're talking about different stressors that people are having. You have specific stressors that you're dealing with based upon your life experiences. Other people have the same things in regards to stressors. Maybe they got broken up with. Maybe they had their spouse passed away or something along those lines. Maybe they went to prison. But what you're talking about is that what you're doing is that with COVID, it's created an entirely different environment, because again, we have this whole mask fucking horseshit bullshit that I cannot deal with on any level. But yes, I comply because I want to get my food, and we'll delete that from this record. But what you're also saying is that I wrote down is that you have a success mindset, because you're not going to let that defeat you. You're going to say, this is really hard for me right now, but I'm going to move forward with this, and I'm going to make my life better. But when it comes to the crowded versus the non-crowded area, help me walk me through that a little bit, because when people come to talking to other people, I mean, I go to the dog park every morning, and when I get there, it's 100% non-crowded. Like, it's just me and the dog and like 30 acres of land. Then it gets, 30 minutes later, and I got a ton of people, and I have to watch where I kick the ball, which in essence is how I kick off my business. Where do I put my business, and stuff like that. But do I get intimidated by that, or do I move forward with it passionately? Because have I hit people in the dog park with kicking balls? Yes. Does that mean that I shouldn't stop? Shut up, Gene. Shut up, Matt.
This is got to be one of the most convoluted analogies I've ever heard. I don't even know.
Shut the fuck up. Let me finish.
I don't know how to rescue this one. I can't rescue this one.
Well, you're not my fucking lifeguard, so shut up. The point is this. Everyone's got a fucked up mindset. We all don't know where to be saved. And if we can be safe, then we wouldn't do it. But if we do it, we're not going to succeed. So, are you going to kick the ball, or are you not going to kick the ball? Are you going to get okay, I'm going to shut up.
Hey, I got a call with my attorney in the morning. We're going to be done by then?
No, not at all. I'm just gonna bring you in on this. Troy, I have a lot of notes, man. I like what you're saying, Mike.
Oh my gosh.
My
gosh.
God, I don't know where that came
kill
from.
my co-host.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen, let me tell you guys this.
Okay.
Gratitude. I think that you need to start your day. We all need to start our day every day writing down 3 to 5 things we're grateful for. And I don't care if it's my feet hit the ground in the morning, the birds chirping, my coffee's hot. You know, if you got to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find something you're grateful for, gratitude changes your life. I read a book while I was gone called 1,000 Gifts. And this woman's friend challenged her to write 1,000 things she was grateful for. So she bought a journal, put it on the kitchen counter, started writing, and wrote a book as a result of this. Probably one of the best books I've ever read in my life. And because of that, I think since I read that book, I probably have journaled about 7,000 different things that I'm grateful for over the last several years. And it's, just a few a day, right? And sometimes it's the same thing. I'm just grateful that I'm healthy, that I'm alive, that my feet hit the ground, that I have coffee, that I have a new client, that, I was able to pick the phone up today, that, that I have love in my life today, so that I love myself today, right?
Yeah.
So I struggle a lot with the gratitude thing. I've tried it over and over again. Not that I don't struggle with being grateful, because I'm grateful for everything too. But the writing stuff down, like I find that I tend to have the same things every day. There are a lot of how many times can I say my daughters? And I mean, I could say it every day, but by the 5th day, I know what the 6th day is going to look like, and so I go, I'm not going to write it down tomorrow. It's my daughters again. But I will tell you one thing that I think has worked for me, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this one too. I have these short goalposts that I put up, and for most people, a lot of them would be really stupid. Short goalposts, go figure, right? From the tallest guy on the show. But what I mean by that, Greg, what I mean by that though is not like I look forward to stuff that's going on. Like I look forward to Christmas, right? But that's one of the longer goalposts. Something for me right now is something so simple. Football's back, right? So August 12th, which is next Thursday, the Eagles play the Steelers. So for me in my head, I'm like, okay, I know that from between now and Thursday, I got to work my ass off to get to that moment so that I have no worries or thoughts when I'm going down to the local bar down the street to get some wings and beer while I watch the game. And then while that's going on, I'll be thinking about what's coming up the next week. We got a trip to Nashville in October. Like, these are just little moving pieces that help me get through the week prior to it because I'm excited about something. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And just think, you'll have early next year, you'll be able to start looking forward to the Eagles having the number 1 pick in the draft. It's going to be awesome.
So it says, wait, I guess you didn't see the Cowboys last night then, did you? You didn't see the Hall of Fame game when they got waxed.
I have no hope for them.
When they put up a 3 spot, I guess you didn't, but okay.
All right. So we want to make sure we get a chance to tell everybody where they can go to connect with Mike. You've got, your own podcast. You're out there being interviewed on other podcasts and stuff like that. What's the central place where they can go to stay in touch with you?
Yeah. Hey, listen, I love networking and building relationships with people. Just DM me, Mike at mycoreintentions.com. I am all over social media. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, connect with me, like me, love me, support me. And
then where can they get the book, Exit Plan?
Yeah. Great question, Matt. Go to mycoreintentions.com/exit plan, and you can download a free copy of the book. And let me warn you, I had somebody going to be on my podcast one morning, and she said, "Oh, I'm late because I was printing your book. It's 264 pages." I said, "Well, it's a freaking book. What do you think?" She said, "Yeah, but when people tell you to go download a book, it's only a few pages." I go, "Well, I'm not people, so." Exactly.
All right. And then, Mike, if they want to attend your event in Chicago, should they email you? Is that the best way to?
You can email me. I'll get you a link.
Perfect.
I think you can go right to my website. I think my guys have that set up on the website.
So just Google Mike's name. That's the easiest way to get to your website. Just Google your name, Mike Morawski.
Yeah. And spell
mycoreintentions.com.
The dyslexic people.
Yes. Like okay. Yeah. So Morawski, Morawski.
Right. Thank you. Now I can spell it.
And that event is going to be a 3-day deep dive into multifamily investing.
Love
everything from how do we find a good deal on market, off market? How do we build good, solid team member relationships into underwriting and exit planning and raising private equity. And so.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. And then Gene, what's the best way to connect with you?
We're going to keep it simple. Facebook, Gene J. Volpe, J for Jackalope. And also the Gene Volpe on Instagram. Send me a private DM.
Or as we lovingly refer to you, the Genvelope.
The Genvelope. The Genvelope.
Oh,
There it is.
All right. Greg, what's the best way to connect with you?
Just call Matt. I mean, he'll always pick up his phone call. I mean, we were a small pack. Now we're a big pack, and we're going to run in, and we're going to be creating a huge thing with EXP. We have a trucking, side that we're building in, and Matt's favorite thing, a cat covered in lizards. This is like his favorite thing on God's green earth. Go ahead and get a hold of me. And there's the nose pinch. We got the nose pinch.
You got it? Nice.
Yeah,
We got it. We got the nose pinch.
It was the Bandito with. Is that Bandito? The cat?
Yeah, well, he's.
Was it? Well, I'm asking if was it the right one? Was that Bandito? Bandito with the lizards, covered in lizards. Yeah, that's what did it for me.
And yes, my mom gave me lizards that he would chase around the house, and obviously he does not chase them anymore because he's dead.
He's chasing them in heaven. He's chasing them in heaven.
Matt killed the cat.
That cat didn't go to heaven. That cat went right straight to hell.
The cat went to heaven.
That's terrible.
All right, the cat box because of Matt. But anyways, guys.
Lord.
All right, Mike, you are a legend, man. I can't wait to have you back on the show. Gene, Matt, guys, you have two jobs to do. Matt starting off with the esteemed co-host, and then Gene, you're the co-host. Colors for the bow on the show.
Navy blue.
Navy blue. All right.
I did a podcast about this book this morning, so
I'm going baby blue. Like a little bit lighter than my shirt.
Yeah, there we go. See, navy blue and baby blue. That's right.
You're just telling me we have blue balls on the show? Okay.
Sure, Greg. All right.
So we have navy blue and baby blue, guys. Thank you for watching the show. Go out there, anywhere you guys listen to watch the podcast, give us a 5-star, not a 2-star. And Gene almost got it, but he didn't quite get it when in regards to checking off all the boxes and when I do something funky on the show. We love you to pieces. We could not do it without you. Thank you so much. Until next time, guys. Peace out, ninjas. We go.